Hey, this is Chris. Another Tire Side Chat. This is going to be a short one. Had an interesting computer come my way. Of course, there's a mosquito. Got my coffee with me. I had sold this individual, his customer, an R500. I think it was about 2 years ago. I think it was. It was before the shop closed, and it seemed to me it was a while before the shop closed. Anyway, he calls me up, says, and it's his daughter's computer, and so they are having trouble with it starting up consistently. And so we talked about it a little bit, and I determined it wasn't a power issue. In other words, the thing would turn on, the screen would come on every time, and so that's always good. He thought maybe the hard drive was bad, but then he said if they restarted it enough, eventually it would start up, like the fifth or sixth time, hitting the power button. And then he said there was an error code, but he didn't remember what it was. You know, it is important, if you do get an error code, to write it down immediately before you call, and that way, it would have provided me with a much better hint of what was going on. But that's okay. Most people don't write it down. So anyway, we meet up, I get the computer, bring it home. Of course, it starts for me. It always does. and so I started up a few times, actually, and it started up. And so I'm thinking, well, okay, let's just run all the diagnostics. So I ran the hard drive diagnostic, everything was golden. Ran the memory diagnostic, everything was golden. Really, that's about all you can run on a computer. There is no real motherboard diagnostic where it will go in there and tell you that the graphics chip is going bad or whatever. And so I basically did a cleanup on it after that. You know, I'd ran the defragger, everything ran fine. I thought maybe it was malware, spyware, some virus. It was clean. I mean, it had like a couple little piddly things on it, but nothing bad at all. Nothing that would cause it to not start. And so then I thought, well, maybe, because I noticed it was Windows 10, and, well, I noticed that before, but now we're getting down to the bottom of the barrel. It's like, well, it can be wrong, you know, because we've cleared all the big things that usually cause a problem like this. And so it's Windows 10. I'm thinking, well, maybe, and I know there's a lot of device driver incompatibility, and not straight up incompatibility, but sometimes it's just a subtle thing. Like sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. So I thought, well, I will upgrade all of the device drivers. So I got out my device driver USB stick, and I stuck it in there and upgraded them all, and they all needed upgrading, which is kind of strange, being a Windows 10 machine, that it didn't have all updated drivers anyway. I thought that was really weird. But anyway, I did that, restarted the machine, and lo and behold, it didn't start. Turned on, so far got an error page. Looked down at the error message, and it says inaccessible boot device. I'm thinking, oh, inaccessible boot device. Well, that usually means the hard drive's got a problem with it, but I already know the hard drive doesn't have a problem with it. And so I go into the BIOS settings, and I'm looking at, and there's a compatibility setting on ThinkPads and on most other computers too. You can set it to compatibility mode, or you can set it to ACHI mode or AHCI mode. One on the other. I always get that confused. So I changed it to compatibility mode to start it up. I turned it back off, changed it back to ACHI mode, AHCI mode, whichever one it is, and it gave the error message again. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, that's pretty much it. And so, you know, something about that setting was wrong, and I don't, you know, it was probably, and I guess it's the device drivers that did it, or I don't know. I don't know why that compatibility mode would be that way, especially since Windows 10 had been reinstalled on that machine, because it had just been installed like it was in July. Yeah, I can find that out. I always look at that because I want to know. Since I sold it to him, You know, if I installed it incorrectly, then I give them a break. But if I didn't install it incorrectly, I don't give them a break. So it had been reinstalled and been reinstalled in ACHI mode, and for some reason, something wasn't quite right. It was also a 32-bit version of Windows 10, and I'm thinking it doesn't get the support it really deserves from Microsoft because they don't care about 32-bit anymore. So but that was it. You know, I repeated that like 3 or 4 times. I would start it in compatibility mode, turn it off, change it to the other mode, turn it back on to get the error, and I did that 3 or 4 times. It satisfied me that that's what the problem was. And so that's what I did, and then just for good measure, just in case somebody wanted to go fiddling around with the BIOS settings, I locked it. I locked all the settings and put a password on it so they can't get to it. The average person doesn't need to be fiddling around with BIOS settings anyway, and so I told him, I did tell him though, I said, look, it's locked. If you want to get into it, let me know. And I'll tell you how to get in, but, you know, don't mess with it. And he said, okay, so no problem. So anyway, that was kind of a strange thing. And so it took a while to get to the bottom of that one. And, but hey, you know, you just never know what you're going to get when you get, but if I'd known, you know, it had an inaccessible boot device, I would have skipped all the antivirus scans and the memory scan and all that. I would have gotten there a lot quicker if I'd known that. I still would have run the hard drive test, but I would not have done anything else. Then I would have gone straight to the BIOS and probably had it fixed within an hour. But that's the way it goes when you're a computer technician. So anyway, if you have any questions or comments, please do so in the section below. Like and subscribe. We appreciate it when you do, and we will see you on the next one.